entrepreneurship is the ultimate equalizer, right? I mean, it doesn't see your gender or color of the skin.
Yeah.
So, I mean, keeping that in mind, you will get the passion to move forward. And when you are successful, take the time to pay forward. And one of the ways you can pay forward is mentoring others.
Welcome back, everyone, into our special series, At the Core with Danielle J. Martin, sponsored by TK Business Magazine. Now, on this series, this is where we're going to be sitting down with special leaders across Kansas, where we get to dive into their leadership journey. Also, we get to dive into the challenges that they've learned along their journey. This is a special opportunity that we get to have where we can dive into the insights and the education that they've learned along the way. So on this month's episode, I'm super excited to introduce to you Dr. Shekhar Challa. He's the president and CEO of the Kansas Medical Clinic. He's also known as the Renaissance Doctor. Dr. Challa, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Danielle. Thanks for having me.
How are you feeling today?
Oh, excellent. I've been ready for this for a while now.
So the Renaissance Doctor, have you heard of that term before?
You just coined it, right?
We're going to dive into why you may be known as that, okay? So many people may not know that. Let's set the foundation for you. You were born in Brooklyn, New York, right? And you've been in this practice since 1987.
Yes.
Long time. So let's begin the journey with you starting the Kansas Medical Clinic. Why did it start? And take me back there.
Well, actually, I was born in India, but I was in New York for 5 years, from 82 to 87, which is where I did my training in internal medicine and gastroenterology. I was definitely very nervous moving to Topeka. When you train in New York, you can work anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty confident about my skill set, but yet nervous and not sure whether I'll be successful or not. Mm-hmm. So I started my practice, and luckily we have come 35 years later, we are sitting here and talking. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest challenges I feel I had when I started the practice was essentially I wasn't sure whether I'll be successful. So that was the biggest challenge, although we had a lot of challenges. Mm.
You talked to me before about how you don't focus on just one medical service, but in your practice over time, you decided to diversify your medical services. Tell me why you decided to make that decision.
Well, as the old adage goes, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Mm-hmm. So obviously, that's the primary reason. But one of the things we wanted to be sure is meet the consumer need. Mm-hmm. What does Topeka need? What does Kansas need? So 25 years ago or so, my wife actually came up with the idea of starting a med spa. Mm-hmm. At that time, remember, 25 years ago, nobody knew what a med spa was. In fact, we were the first med spa in Kansas. So dermatology came later. Mm-hmm. And we did find our sweet spot in dermatology. Consumer need was there, the demand was there. So we scaled dermatology, but we started off with the med spa. One other area we scaled, especially over the last 10 years, was research. So there's a lot of medical conditions out there for which there are no drugs. And so research provides them an avenue of trying something out. So the one area where we really expanded was the liver research. In fact, I'm proud to say that we are doing 16 studies on liver disease, fatty liver, NASH, and cirrhosis. There's no treatment for it. Mm-hmm. So all the major pharmaceutical companies are on a race to be the first to be the drug to be approved. But honestly, there's a market for a lot of other drugs too. Mm-hmm. So diversification, of course, is needed. Yeah. But I believe these are the two sweet spots we have identified, and that's where we grew. So
I'm sure this is an obvious question, but being in the medical field for about 35 years, you have to say you obviously like it.
Yes, you have to like it, especially my field, the gastroenterology field. Mm-hmm. We are finding a lot of colon cancers, and Every time you find a colon cancer, especially if it's early, we feel good about what we do. So
Now, many people know you as a doctor, but you're also an entrepreneur, correct?
Yes.
And so I'm curious, you're very busy. When we talked behind the scenes and I was getting to know your schedule, I'm like, how do you maintain your energy, right? So how do you balance the two roles?
Well, early on in my career, my dad actually told me, be a good doctor first, then an entrepreneur. So first 10 years, I was just a doctor. Once I felt comfortable, then I decided to be an entrepreneur. So 80 to 90% of the time, what I do has to do with the medical practice still. And that I owe it to my superstar management team. They're awesome. And because of that, I still can practice gastroenterology and hepatology and let the company grow. Right. I'm not a micromanager, which helps. So primarily that is what I'm doing, mostly practice of medicine, but the vision is there. I provide the vision. Quality healthcare is a must. An average consumer is very savvy.
Right.
They recognize quality. He's a bad doctor or a good doctor. So that is a given. But from a vision standpoint, the vision has always been there. But, you need to have a good culture for growing the company. For being an entrepreneur, the culture comes first. And at KMC, over the years, we have developed what we call the great philosophy. Yeah. 4 things in the great philosophy. One is make the patient's day. That's why we are here. Play, but within reason. We are family. Take care of each other. No drama. Life has enough. Leave it out of the workplace.
I love that.
So, balancing part is easier for me because of the management team. Long-winded answer
No,
to
it's
a
okay.
question.
So you would say that, I love that you can probably say that you have found a balance between medical training and kind of incorporating it into your entrepreneurial journey and still striving to meet the needs of the consumer.
Yes, correct. I think medical training teaches you to work hard, resilience, which helps in your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
And they don't do this, they don't teach any of this in medical school,
Right.
Which is sad. I was talking to my nephew the other day. He just became a doctor, and he agrees even today, there is no training at all to do the business of medicine, to conduct the business of medicine.
Yeah. Okay, so I thought it was really intriguing to find out that you don't have one book. You have multiple books, right?
Yes.
And another part of your entrepreneurial journey is that you have a business with your daughter. Tell us more about this.
Yes, I have written multiple books. In fact, I'm proud to say one of my book was translated into Spanish on hepatitis C.
Love it.
And especially in Venezuela and Brazil. I donated the rights of the book to Venezuela and Brazil for the Spanish book. But going back to probiotics for dummies, my daughter comes up to me and says, "Dad, I want to start a nutraceutical company, a supplement company." I said, "Sure, honey, go for it." And the next thing you know is, I need you to help me with the supplements. And so we formulated our products. And to give credibility to our products is why I wrote Probiotics for Dummies. So, that gives true credibility for our products. The big challenge we had was bringing it to market. We were struggling for 2-3 years bringing it to market. So we were strong in coming with the product, getting credibility, but we were poor in understanding how to sell the product. That's when we started getting a traditional CEO, and then pretty soon we are in 5,000 stores.
Wow.
We did exit that company in 2019, I believe. So.
Wow. Would you say it is challenging or pleasurable to say mixing family and business is a good idea?
It's a little bit of both. But understand, there was a secondary reason. That
Yeah.
was not the only reason. Being a GI doctor, it gives me a clear understanding about the challenges regarding the gut. So this was a good opportunity to democratize the gut market with Probulin.
Right.
And so it's not necessarily I'm helping my daughter
Yeah.
coming up with the product, but also, it made sense. It's it's one of those relationships which we fight all the time, but we love each other
You,
quite
you,
a bit.
you
So,
still make it through.
absolutely, absolutely.
What I love too is you were telling me about, during the day, majority of your time is obviously spent during at your practice, but there are other times where you're spending your time talking to students, entrepreneurs, and there's something about that mentorship piece that you enjoy as well during your life. Tell me about when you're speaking to entrepreneurs about becoming the best and doing their best, and because many of us know that it's very challenging starting your own business. And so when you're speaking to any of your students or people that you mentor, what advice do you give them, especially with aspiring entrepreneurs trying to be in the medical field?
Yeah, the first advice I give them is you have to know your product or service better than anyone else. You have to be the purple cow.
I love this, by the way.
The purple cow, Seth Godin wrote that book, Purple Cow, right? Essentially, in short, he says you have to be remarkable. People from far would be able to identify you as the purple cow as opposed to a regular cow. So the number one advice I would give is you have to know your product. Beyond that, get ready to work hard, be resilient, and you need to understand your numbers.
Would you say that you have any specific key principles or strategies that you have learned with opening up your own practice that you could pass down to anyone right now that's in the process of doing it? Because the medical field is very challenging. A lot of people don't sustain in that industry, but you have still found a way to make it over not only 20, but 35 years. You're still sustaining. What strategies or principles do you share?
Okay, one of the big characteristics I would recommend for an entrepreneur is self-doubt. Never be overconfident, right? Self-doubt helps you learn along the way and grow, all right? If you ask my kids, from the teenage or even before that, the one thing I've said is dreams are free.
Yeah.
So dream big, okay? And the two mantras I have is perfection is the enemy of good. All right.
good.
And status quo is the kiss of death.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be perfect. You'll die of old age if you try to be perfect. Good is good enough. Okay. So especially for an entrepreneur.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll be striving for perfection and will never move. And, in a scaling company, status quo, your overheads are increasing, everything is going up. Status quo is the kiss of death. So these are the primary things I would recommend.
I love that. I like the idea of being overconfident, right? And so just being bold in the things that you know and who you are. I think that's a really good tactic to apply to everything. And so, Dr. Challa, you are a very wise man, and you've been in this practice for many years. And I'm sure many people are wondering, with the knowledge you have, the resume you have, it's why Topeka? Why did you decide to take something like KMC and plant it here?
Several parts of the answer to that question you have. One is I moved in 87. Okay, 87 New York City, you don't want to go there. Okay, I wanted to be
It's
in
a different
city.
place.
Absolutely. I wanted to be in a place which is good to raise a family and also close to a big city. And Topeka was ideal. So my rebuttal to that question, and I specifically use the word rebuttal, is I was not who I am today in 1987. So Topeka made me. So I owe it to Topeka.
That's beautiful.
So,
You also are involved in the community.
yes.
And you are on multiple leadership boards, which I ask you all the time, when do you sleep? And you're like, I don't. I just stay at the office until 8 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, Dr. Challa, you have to go home at some point.
Yes, I have a wonderful wife, and who doesn't complain whatever time I come home. But
Which
I
is a
do
good
get
thing.
yeah, absolutely. I do get my sleep in. Luckily, I don't sleep a whole lot. So 4 to 5 hours is enough for me.
Okay.
So that helps. I catch up on weekend afternoon naps on weekends and all. So.
What do you love about the community aspect that keeps you involved with all the things you have going on? Typically you see a lot of people in the medical field, doctors that, they don't have that much time because of the hours, but you still find time to say, you know what, I still want to serve.
Yeah, it's one way I'm giving back to Topeka, giving back to the community. If it weren't for Topeka, I wouldn't be here at this stage of my career.
When you talk about the idea of balancing and going after your passion and pursuing your passion and balancing, work-life balance while also doing the thing, what advice do you have for whether it's entrepreneurs or anyone that's trying to achieve a goal? How do you balance it all?
From a business perspective, numbers don't lie. You have to be true to your numbers, right? So there is no advantage pursuing a passion if the numbers don't make sense, if the economics don't work. So from a business perspective, you have to be honest with yourself.
Right.
And you will soon realize when to push the gas pedal and when to hit the brake.
Are you ready to dive into the vibrant world of business in Topeka? Well, look no further than TK Business Magazine. You'll be able to discover the stories of innovative leaders, passionate entrepreneurs, and learn the real journey behind their success. TK Business Magazine is where inspiration meets reality. You can grab a copy today by heading to www.tkmagazine.com. I'm sure you've learned to a lot of challenges along the way. You've learned to, okay, you know what? I am overwhelmed right now. I'm going to take a break. First of all, when do you know when it's time to take a break? Because I think, we live in a society where it's like hustle culture. We got to keep going. We got to do whatever we need to do to get there. And so for you, someone can look at your resume and be like, how do you maintain it all? How do you balance? But I'm sure for you, what has wired you or triggered you to say, you know what, this is a time for me to take a break?
Unfortunately, I'm not triggered that way. I if it were left to me, I wouldn't take a break. But I have good people surrounding me, my wife, my kids, my mentor, who keeps me accountable and said, this year you're going to take so many weeks off.
Yeah.
And when I take a break, I take a break. I'm MIA.
You're done. Okay, Speaking of mentorship, I love this question because a lot of people, especially young people, are looking for mentors or some don't. Why do you recommend people to have a mentor, especially when it comes to opening up your own business?
So my mentor is a gentleman by the name of David Finkel. Okay, he actually wrote the book Scale. He keeps me grounded. He keeps me accountable and also gives you a second opinion. And a trained mentor pulls from a lot of businesses.
Right.
And that helps you, whether you are in medical field or otherwise, it helps you. So I strongly recommend if you want to scale a company to get a good mentor. And, not only that, but he is also helping us level up our management team, so every time we need to grow or lose a manager because they are moving out of town, we upgrade ourselves. So that is something which I would not have thought about if it weren't for all the reading I do. I do read a lot of books and the mentorship. So in terms of mentoring others is concerned, I look at mentorship in two ways, right? You're not only mentoring the business aspect, but also the personal side of the individual or the company. You have to be supportive and tactical when it comes to mentorship, right? And you have to be speaking in actionable terms,
Right.
right? Set a date, a time, a deadline.
Yeah.
So that's how mentorship is from a business side. From a personal side, you have to mature them as a person too. Humility is a virtue we hardly see lately. So, being humble is good.
Yeah.
The other thing is, let success not go to your head or failure go to your heart, right?
I love that.
You have to, failure is inevitable in business. You just need to get up and keep going,
Yeah.
right? Entrepreneurship is the ultimate equalizer, right? It doesn't see your gender or color of the skin.
Yeah.
So, keeping that in mind, you will get the passion to move forward. And when you are successful,
Yeah.
take the time to pay forward. And one of the ways you can pay forward is mentoring others.
I love that. Okay, I want to circle back to the idea of failure and how people can combat it, because I love that, and I think we can give some more tips on that. But for someone that is seeking mentorship, what advice do you have for a mentee to go out? How do they go about finding a mentor?
You'll be surprised. There are so many people out there. You think they're so busy and they would have no time for me, but that's not true.
Right.
You'll be surprised. You just have to ask.
You just have
Honestly,
to ask.
that's. I've been asked by several people, but expect homework.
Yeah.
Don't come back to me, waste my time, unless you have done ABC.
That's true.
So, but honestly, I don't think it doesn't even have to be in your field.
Right.
A mentor is somebody who's been successful, have had failures in their life. How they got over that. And continue to be successful.
Yeah, so. I remember you told me that you just don't mentor medical
no,
people.
Not at all. In fact, I never mentored medical people. It's
ever?
Mostly, no.
Okay.
They come and rotate with me, spend a week with me. I give some ideas, but not truly, somebody coming to me and say, can you mentor me starting a business or something?
Yeah. I think that's
not
awesome.
done medical, so.
Well, that's good. So you can kind of separate a little
absolutely.
bit. Okay, coming back to the idea of overcoming failure, especially in our society, a lot of people want to succeed. They're not really comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? But you could probably say that you're so comfortable with failure, you're like, it's a part of the process.
Absolutely, 100%. So if you have not failed, it's one of two things. You are a rookie, you're just getting started, or you're not comfortable stepping out of your comfort zone. Okay. I have had my share of failures, and as long as you learn from your failures and don't repeat the same thing, you're okay. Probiotic company, right?
Yeah.
We struggled 3 years to get it going, trying to pivot. Nothing is happening. Then we realized, what? We are good at making products, credible products, but we don't know how to sell. So in hindsight, I should have known my weakness. It took me 2-3 years. So that took 2-3 years away from our scaling.
Right.
So once we realized that, we got a traditional CEO who has had experience taking products to market. Let's take dermatology. Dermatology, we today have 11 clinics all over the state.
Yeah.
But at a point when we were just scaling, it was very clear that plastic surgery is the way to get into, right? Dermatology, plastics go hand in hand. We brought in 2 plastic surgeons, and 2 years go by and they are not busy. So the market has spoken already.
Right.
Whatever the reason, the market has spoken. We are trying to just pivot a little bit here, market a little bit more. Nothing is happening. So the one thing I learned, the dermatology and plastic surgery is, you got to feed your winners,
Right.
Which was dermatology for us, and starve your losers, which is plastic surgery for us, which we closed.
So you found a way to pivot and keep going, understand that adversity is going to come, but you still got to keep going.
Absolutely.
And so for someone that has been comfortable with being uncomfortable, what advice would you give to those who are just, one, trying to tap into this industry of entrepreneurship and trying to be as successful as you are?
It's not going to happen overnight. Okay, don't expect. Very few companies go from 0 to 100 within 2-3 years.
Right.
It is going to take time. A lot of hard work. And at some point, you will know, well, your product may not be as good as you think it is, or your service is not as good as you think it is. And this is where mentorship will come in. Getting a second opinion will always help. And, someone who has nothing to lose to tell you and be honest with you is the person you should go to.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious, but do you see retirement coming anytime soon? You're like, I'm just getting started.
Probably not. I do want to slow down a little bit.
Okay. What does that
from
look
the
like?
practice of medicine.
Okay.
Oh, that looks like 60 hours a week.
Just 60 hours. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
like
typical.
I said, like you said, I don't sleep. So, yeah, I think I'm never going to retire, in my opinion. I'm going to be always doing something. Research
agree.
is something. We just signed on a couple of studies which will go on 7 years. So I don't expect to retire. I want to take more time off, in the sense that when I'm off, I'm off.
Yeah.
But no, I don't plan to retire. I may slow down in the practice of gastroenterology.
Yeah, just a little bit.
That's about it. So,
what legacy do you want to leave for your family and for this community?
Well, to be remembered in a positive way. Anyone can succeed if they work hard.
Yeah. That's amazing. Dr. Challa, I appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. Any last words before we close out?
You covered everything, Danielle. So you're pretty meticulous. So
well, you made it simple. And I know people can go and read your bio, but I just love that we can have this intimate time where people can see, just understand who you are, but, beyond the medicine. Like, you've been in this for over 35 years, but there's another piece of you that you enjoy. You enjoy the business, you enjoy mentorship. And so I appreciate the time that you've had here. I know I'm just another hour in your book, but it's a beautiful time with you. And so I appreciate that.
First of all, that's not true. It's not another hour in a book. This is an honor to be interviewed by you, and I appreciate you having me here.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of At the Core with Danielle J. Martin, sponsored by TK Business Magazine. We're going to continue more covering leaders across Kansas. I hope you stay tuned and have a great day.